We are the Gujarat Technological University. Since its inception over a decade ago, GTU has been empowering young and curating minds to realize their true potential. Over 4 lakh inspired students are enrolled with one of the premier academic universities in India. With more than 450 affiliated colleges in its fold operating across 5 zones of the state, GTU, the International Innovative University, your place to move forward.
Good morning, friends. Myself, Dr. Satish Shah, Assistant Professor in Chemical Engineering Department, LD College of Engineering, would like to deliver a lecture on Process Equipment Design 1, which is as per GTU syllabus, the subject code is 216053. Now, the topic which I am going to cover today, that is process design of cell and tube heat exchanger. In this lecture, I'll be only covering the theory part. My next lecture, I'll be covering the problem. So let us start with the understanding of the cell and tube heat exchanger. See, as all of you are aware that cell and tube heat exchanger is very important chemical equipment which is used by the chemical industries. Whichever industry you will visit, you will find everywhere the cell and tube heat exchanger. So it is very important chemical equipment, we can say. Very briefly, I will tell you that which are the important parts of cell and tube heat exchanger, and then we will discuss the process design of cell and tube heat exchanger. So if you see the parts of the cell and tube heat exchanger, it will be like this. So here, this will be the cell, this is channel portion, this is head. Here, suppose we have the direct cell, head connected to the cell, and then we have the nozzles for inlet and outlet. Similarly, we have nozzles on the channel side or tube side, which is also for the inlet as well as the outlet. And then we have the baffles inside this, where the fluid will travel like this. So fluid will travel like this. Alright. Now, see, let us, important parts I will just tell you. The important parts are cell, this is cell, which is cylindrical in nature. Then we have the number of tubes. So tubes will be here. Tubes will start from either this end of the tube seat and it will end at the baffle end. Suppose I have one baffle over here, so it will end over here. It will start from the other side, the tubes, then it will end at the baffle at this end. So this way I have many number of tubes, and which will be arranged in either triangular pitch or square pitch. So this will be the arrangement of the tube. Then we have the head. Then we have the nozzles. As you see here, I have the cell nozzle inlet and cell outlet nozzle. This is my tube inlet nozzle and tube outlet nozzle. This is the pass partition plate for the tube side. This is the pass partition plate. Here, this is the imaginary line, so I can even remove this line, because fluid will enter over here. It will travel like this, and then it will again travel like this, and it will again return back. So this is known as 2-pass cell and tube heat exchanger. This can be 1 pass also, or even more passes are also possible. Then we have the baffle. This is the baffle. What you see here, that is the baffle. See, this is the baffle. Now here, what is the role of baffle? See, baffle will allow the fluid of cell side to pass in the particular direction. Also, baffle will support the tubes. So these are the 2 main benefits of the baffle. Now, as far as the baffle spacing is concerned, that will control the pressure drop on cell side. That we'll see in later detail. So now, we have the tie rod and spacer. What is tie rod and spacer? So suppose I have one rod which I will pass throughout from this point to this point. This is my tie rod. That is one solid rod. These are the two baffles. In between I will put one piece of pipe. So that will be equal to the baffle spacing, and it will keep the baffle in tight position. So that is the role of the spacer, and this is the tie rod. So that will, the diameter of the spacer, if you see, that has diameter more than the tube body. So anytime it will not enter the tube hole, and it will maintain the baffle spacing as it is. So these are the general parts of the cell and tube heat exchanger. Let us now discuss the general procedure for design. Tell you the important steps for the design of the cell and tube heat exchanger. So the first step, that is the calculation of heat load. See, basically when you take cell and tube heat exchanger, we have the two fluids. One fluid will be hot fluid, another fluid will be cold fluid. Hot fluid and cold fluid. What is important for us is to know the flow rate, fluid name. First is the fluid name, then the flow rate, then the temperature in oblique out, then the specific heat, then operating pressure, then allowable pressure drop, So there are many more properties also required that we are not discussing here. That will be as and when needed, we will be just including that. So suppose I have the fluid name, that is hot and cold fluid is available to us. Suppose in my case I want to cool the process hot fluid. So my cold fluid utility will be either cooling water or it will be chilled water. So now I know the fluid is suppose A. That is my fluid. Let us have the flow rate of this fluid is X. I know the temperature which I want to cool from, say suppose 110 to 70 degrees Celsius. And for this I am using cooling water. I am not using chilled water. The specific heat of this fluid is, let us say it is 0.45. And the operating pressure is almost atmospheric, or it is slightly more than atmospheric, let us say or 2 atmosphere. Allowable pressure drop is say 0.5 atmosphere. Now this is for as far as the process side is concerned. This is utility side, where I have to calculate the flow rate of the cooling water, that I will calculate later on. Temperature in and out, if you say, let us say fix the temperature of 32 and 45 degrees Celsius. The specific heat of this will be 1. Here the unit is kilocalorie per kg degree Celsius. Operating pressure here is, let us say it is 4. And the allowable pressure drop is say 0.7 kg force per centimeter square, or it is atmosphere. So this is now known to us. So once we know this, we know that, see, this is the sensible heat load change. So I can calculate my heat load using the formula Q is equal to mCp delta T. See, there is one more formula is also available, that is Q is equal to m lambda. This I will be using for the calculation of condensation load. But in our case, we have the simple heat load, so I can use the formula of Q is equal to mCp delta T, where m, that is the mass flow rate, that is given to us, Cp is specific heat, and delta T is temperature difference. So in my first step, I will calculate the heat load like this. Q is equal to mCp delta T or Q is equal to m into lambda. So this is my first step when I want to start my design. Let us go to the step number 2. See, what is my step number 2? Step number 2, that is calculation of LMTD. Calculation of LMTD. Now, what is LMTD? LMTD, that is log mean temperature difference. So, if you want to calculate LMTD, what you have to do? You have to use the formula, that is LMTD is equal to delta T1 minus delta T2 upon ln of delta T1 upon delta T2. See, this is delta T1 and delta T2, they are the temperature difference. Here I will just show you or make it more clear that what it is. So if you see here, it will be clear to you that what is delta T1 and what is delta T2. See, this temperature, as I told you, it is 110 degree and I want to reduce it to 70. And the other side, that is cooling water side, the temperature inlet is 32 and I am raising it to 45 degrees Celsius. This is in complete counter current flow if it is 1 pass. But I know that whatever figure I have shown you, then I have shown you 1-2 pass. But let us say, assume first here it is 1 pass, it is completely counter current flow. I will calculate the temperature difference here. What is the temperature difference here? That is known as delta T1. And what is temperature difference over here? That is known as delta T2. So if you substitute here the values of delta T1 and delta T2, here the condition is delta T1 should not be equal to delta T2. Then you will calculate the value of LMTD. But now see, as I told you that this is applicable to only counter current flow. But suppose our flow is not counter current. Because when I am taking more than 1 pass, and it is most of the cases it will happen, it will not be the counter current flow. So in that case, I have to apply the correction factor. So how to apply the correction factor? So for apply correction factor, see, I can write down this hot temperature as, say this in symbol I will write down capital T1, T2. And this I will write down small t1 and t2. If I will write down like this, I can calculate value of R and S. Now what is R and what is S? R, that is T1 minus T2, T1 minus T2 upon T2 minus T1. See, when I am writing capital, it is hot fluid. When I am writing small, it is cold fluid. So you will calculate value of R like this. Similarly, you will calculate value of S like T2 minus T1 upon T1 minus T1. So I hope it is clear to you that see, these both the temperature are the inlet temperature for hot and cold fluid. And you will calculate R and S. Now we have the nomograph available in the book. And that nomograph is like this, where we have on this side Ft, that is the correction factor, and on this side I have value of S, that is between 0, 0.1, 0.2 up to 1, and I have different value of R, which is something like this. So this is 0.1, 0.2, like this. Here I will say it is, suppose R is equal to 4, R is equal to 10, like this, 15, 20, so many. So this chart nomograph is available in the book. So what you can do, say, I have not told you that which book you have to refer. You can refer the book of the Bhatt and Thakur. Bhatt and Thakur, B.I. Bhatt and S.B. Thakur, the process equipment design book. Second edition is also out. You can use that book and you will find out the correction factor. Even you can refer the Colson-Richardson volume 6, where this nomograph is available. So now you will get value of Ft, that is correction factor, So then you will find out corrected LMTD, which is known as MTD. So it is LMTD, simply multiply by FT. And this value is between 0 and 0.5. So if you multiply like this, you will get the corrected LMTD, or it is known as MTD. So this is our second step. We'll move to the third step. Okay, now third step. Before going to third step, see, I will tell you that, see, there is one term which is known as overall heat transfer coefficient. Here I have to assume overall heat transfer coefficient. So before proceeding further, let me again make clear this, what is overall heat transfer coefficient. You already have studied in heat transfer the overall heat transfer coefficient. But let me make it clear that overall heat transfer coefficient, that is, if you know the cell side and heat transfer coefficient and the dirt factor and the thermal conductivity of tube metal, using all this you can find out for cell and tube heat exchanger the value of overall heat transfer coefficient. So very simple formula I will tell you, that is 1 upon U0, that is equal to 1 upon HO plus 1 upon HOD plus 1 upon HI into DO upon DI plus 1 upon HID into DO upon DI plus DO ln DO upon DI upon twice KW. So which are all these terms? See, HO, that is outside heat transfer coefficient, or we say it is cell side heat transfer coefficient. This is dirt heat transfer coefficient for cell side or outside. This is tube side heat transfer coefficient, that is to be multiplied by DO upon DI. This is tube side dirt coefficient or inside dirt coefficient. KW, that is the thermal conductivity of tube metal. So if you know all these things, you will calculate the overall heat transfer coefficient. Now you have question that how to now assume value of overall heat transfer coefficient. So there is in book, they have given certain guideline. There is one chart is given in the book, or one table is given in the book, where you will find out that for particular system of the fluid, when you want to do the heat transfer or cell and tube heat exchanger design, you can assume the value of the overall heat transfer coefficient, for which they have given some range. So suppose they have given the range of 1000 to 1500 kilocalorie per hour meter square degree Celsius. So what you can do, you can very well assume 1200 or 1300, whatever you wish to assume. This is not final value. So this is our starting point. So you assume the value of overall heat transfer coefficient, which is known as UO, or it is known as UD. So somebody is writing UO, somebody is writing UD. Dirty overall heat transfer coefficient, or somebody is writing UO directly. So once you know the overall heat transfer coefficient, our next step, you will calculate the area provided. What you will calculate? Area provided. So area provided, that is the surface area of the heat transfer, and that you will calculate using the formula area provided is equal to pi DO L into number of tubes. And there is one more overall heat transfer coefficient. If you use Q is equal to UA delta T M. So if you see here, Q, that is heat load, UD, that is overall heat transfer coefficient, delta Tm, that is LMTD, that is corrected LMTD. This is LMTD, and then we have multiplied by correction factor, and that value is known as delta T. So now this value will give you the value of area, and when you assume value of UD, whatever value of area you are getting, that is known as the area provided. So area provided will be known to you, and then area provided, that is equal to pi DO L into number of tubes, where DO, that is tube outer diameter, L, that is tube length. If these two parameters is known to you, or you can assume, and that you will get number of tubes. So now you have the number of tubes available with you. Alright, so this way we will calculate the area provided. In detail we will later on discuss. So here at this point, our point is to calculate the area provided. Then the next step. See, once you calculate the area provided, and from that you have found out the number of tubes by knowing the value of tube outer diameter and tube length, your overall heat exchanger is ready with you. It means now you have in your mind the picture of cell and tube heat exchanger is ready. That is based on our assumption of UD. So now you have the heat transfer cell and tube heat exchanger which is ready. Now we have to check whether it is okay or not. So for that we have to calculate the heat transfer coefficient. So we have to calculate cell side and tube side both heat transfer coefficient. So let us do one by one calculation for the heat transfer coefficient. So first I will discuss for the tube side heat transfer coefficient. Tube side heat transfer coefficient. That is known as HI. That is known as HI. Now see, for calculation of HI, we have the formula available with us. So how we will calculate the HI? So for that, the formula you can use. If, see, now we have to first check whether the flow is laminar or turbulent or transition zone. How we will check it? You will check using the Reynolds number. So if your Reynolds number is less than or equal to 2100, you say that your flow is laminar. And if the flow is laminar, in that case you will use the formula of Nu is equal to 1.86 into Re into PR into L upon Di upon L whole raised to 0.33 into mu by mu W raised to 0.14. So what is here? Nu, that is Nusselt number. As all of you are aware, it is Hd by K. Re, that is Reynolds number, du rho by mu. PR, that is Prandtl number. Di, that is tube ID. L, that is tube length. And mu W, that is the viscosity in the bulk and viscosity at the wall. If there is not much viscosity change, we will most of the time consider this mu and mu W equal to ratio equal to 1, and this term will just cancel. So now here also when your Nu, that is less than or equal to 3.5, you consider this as 3.5. If your value of Nusselt number is less than or equal to 3.5, then you take Nu is equal to 3.5. So this is for laminar flow. Suppose now we have the turbulent flow. So turbulent flow means Reynolds number is greater than 4000. In that case, our formula will be Nu is equal to C Re raised to 0.8 PR raised to 0.33 mu by mu W raised to 0.14. See, here we have the constant C. C, that is a constant. C is equal to 0.021. This is for the gases. This is for gases. 0.023 for non-viscous fluid and 0.027 for the viscous fluid. So most of the time we need to use 0.023 because we are going to use most of the time on tube side the water, which is non-viscous fluid. So this is the C value, Reynolds number, Prandtl number, everything you will calculate, and as I told you, this will be mu by mu w raised to 0.14 will be most of the time unity. And this Nu, that is Hd by K, so from that you will calculate the heat transfer coefficient on tube side, that is Hi. Sometime it will happen that the flow is transition zone. Transition zone means the Reynolds number is between 2100 and 4000. So in that case, use both the formula, and whichever will give you low value, that you have to consider. Lower value you have to consider. Remember, always the lower value will control the heat transfer, and that is safe for the design expansion. Alright, so this is for the tube side heat transfer coefficient. Now we will calculate the. Now see, as I told you that in tube side heat transfer coefficient also, most of the time we have water. And when we have water, there is no need to use all these type of formulas. You can directly use one simple formula, and which is applicable to turbulent flow for water, and that HIE you can simply calculate using this formula, that is HI is equal to 4200 into bracket 1.35 plus 0.02 T into UT raised to 0.8 upon DI raised to 0.2, and this will be in watt per meter square degree Celsius. Here, this is empirical equation. You have to use value of T, that is the average water temperature in degree Celsius. UT, that is the water velocity you have to take in meter per second. And DI, that is tube ID, you have to take in mm. Remember, you should not make any mistake to take this unit, that is very important. So once you take in this unit, you will get value of HI straight away for the water. So this is all about the tube side heat transfer coefficient. Now let us discuss the next step, that is the calculation of cell side heat transfer coefficient. So even I can divide this part 5 into 2 part A and B. This B will be cell side heat transfer coefficient. Now see, when you go for cell side heat transfer coefficient, before that what you have to do? You have to find out the bundle diameter, because now you have to fix up the diameter of cell. So how you will calculate the bundle diameter? For calculation of bundle diameter, we have the formula available, that is known as dB. dB, that is bundle diameter. I can write down like this. Bundle diameter, that is dB, is equal to dO into nt by K1 whole raised to 1 by N1. This is bundle diameter, this is tube outer diameter, nt is number of tubes, K1 and N1 they are the constant. Now this constant has different value based on the square pitch and triangular pitch. So I will give you that value also here, that which are the value you have to use. See, if we have the triangular pitch, your tube pitch will be 1.25 times DO. So this is general. You can use sometime in special case different value of the tube pitch, but most of the time it is 1.25 times DO. And if you use this value, then based on the number of passes, your value of N1 and K1 will vary. So I am just listing over here that values. So you can just make a note of this and you can use it. So here I am writing the number of tube passes. This is number of tube passes. And then I will write down K1 and N1. If your number of tube pass is 1, 2, 4, 6 and 8. How your value of Q1 will vary? This will be 0.319, this will be 0.249, this will be 0.175, this will be 0.0743, this will be 0.0365, and N1 will be 2.142, this will be 2.207, this will be 2.285, this will be 2.499, and this will be 2.675. See, similar to this, value is also available for the square pitch, which I am not writing over here. You can refer to the book if required, but most of the time we need triangular pitch. So I have mentioned for the triangular pitch. And second important thing, that if we have the U tube, say instead of 2 pass, suppose I have 2 pass and I have U tube, there are difference. Because when I am using 2 pass, I am putting the just pass partition plate. But when I am using U tube, the shape of the tube will be something like this. So there is, because of the limitation of the manufacturing practice, I need the more diameter. So in case of U tube, my formula will be slightly different. It will be dB is equal to DO into NT dash upon K1 whole raised to 1 by N1. So what is difference here? Here it is NT, here it is NT dash. So this NT dash, that is equal to NT plus dB by PT. dB by PT. dB is bundle diameter. So for calculation of this, you have to first assume bundle diameter, and then you have to match with this, and if you get the again same value, then you can say that okay, it is applicable to U tube. Or what you can do roughly, you can, whatever value you are getting by this formula, you can take slightly higher by your experience. So then you will get the bundle diameter. Now once bundle diameter is known to you, you add the clearance and you will get the cell diameter. So cell diameter is equal to bundle diameter plus clearance. Now how much clearance we have to take? That clearance will be, for fixed tube seat heat exchanger, it will be 10 to 20 mm. But if you go for the split head, split ring floating head, it will be 50 to 80 mm. And if you use the pull through floating head, it will be 90 to 100 mm. But most of our design will be using 10 to 20 mm. Alright, so this is all about the heat transfer coefficient. So you will calculate like this the cell side heat transfer coefficient. We have the tube side heat transfer coefficient, which is already known to you. Alright, so let us now discuss the cell side heat transfer coefficient calculation. Cell side heat transfer coefficient calculation. See, I have already told you that how to calculate the cell side diameter. Now, see, once everything is known to you, you have the number of tube known to you, cell diameter is known to you, baffle spacing. See, now there is one important thing, that is baffle spacing. How to assume baffle spacing? There is the standard norms that you can take your baffle spacing between 20 to 100% of the cell diameter. 20 to 100% of the cell diameter. It means, I will give you example that suppose your cell diameter is 500 mm, then you have to take baffle spacing between 100 to 500 mm. Now see, most of the time what we do that, we will assume baffle spacing of say 200 mm or 250 mm, because then we have opportunity to either increase or decrease. Because when you increase your baffle spacing, your pressure drop will decrease on cell side. If you decrease your baffle spacing, your pressure drop on cell side will increase. and we will only know after completion of design that whether we want to increase or decrease the pressure drop. So accordingly, I will fix up the wafer spacing. Then, as I told you that suppose we are using for triangular pitch, I will take tube pitch to be equal to 1.25 times tube OD. So I will get value of PT. Now see, if you see here, basically if you just try to understand that what is the flow phenomena on cell side. If you see here, these are my wafers. Flow is flowing like this. This we are talking about the main flow only. So this flow will be something like this. So when it will pass here, then what is the area it will cover? That is important for us. And what we normally consider that at the center, what is the area which is covered by this flow. Now if you see here, really this is one side, that this will be the wafer spacing that is available to you. Second side, we have the tubes like this. Suppose this is my tubes which is there in the center. Fluid will flow, cell side fluid will flow like this. So it will flow between the clearance available between the tube body. So now we have to calculate the what is the number of clearance available, and you have to multiply by the value of the clearance. That will give you the one side area, multiply by the wafer spacing, that will give you the cross section area available for the cell side flow. So if you write down the formula, it will be AS is equal to PT minus DO upon PT minus DO, that is clearance, into DS by PT, that is number of clearance available, and multiply by DS, that is wafer spacing. So this way you will calculate the cross section area available for the cell side flow. You can calculate GS, that is equal to M by AS. Okay. Now we want to calculate the Reynolds number. For Reynolds number, what you need is the equivalent diameter. See, Reynolds number is equal to dE G by mu. Here I can say it is GS. So this equivalent diameter, that is again very important term as far as the cell side flow is concerned. And equivalent diameter will vary in the square pitch as well as the tube pitch. So let us discuss for the both, the square pitch and tube pitch. Suppose I have the square pitch. See, square pitch means the tubes will be in the position like this, and if you just join the center of them, it will make the perfect square. And the area available for flow will be something like this. So fluid is passing from this particular area which I have drawn by shaded line. So if square pitch is there, then you will calculate equivalent diameter, that is equal to 4 into cross section area upon wetted perimeter. Upon wetted perimeter. So what is that cross section area? It will be 4 into PT square minus, PT square means this is PT, tube pitch. This is PT and this is tube body. So if you say it is minus pi by 4 DO square, because if you see here 1, 2, 3 and 4, so it is making total one circle. So it is pi by 4 DO square upon this is wetted perimeter is equal to the pi DO. It is equal to pi DO. So this way you will calculate, if you just simplify this, the formula will become 1.27 upon DO into PT square minus 0.785 DO square. So if you remember only this formula, dE is equal to 1.27 upon dO, PT square minus 0.785 dO square, it will do. But this is for the square pitch. But if you want to do for the triangular pitch, then what is the difference? I will explain you here also for the triangular pitch. So if you take triangular pitch, then it will be dE is equal to dE triangular pitch. Again formula will be same, but only let me first draw the figure. So it will be like this. This is 1, 2nd and 3rd tubes, and if you just join the center, it will be exactly equilateral triangle. This angle, if you say, it is 60 degree. The flow area available will be something like this. So here what you can do, you can write down dE, that is equal to 4 into cross section area. What is cross section area? It will be 1/2 PT into PT sin 60. It is 1/2 base into height, and minus pi by 8 dO square. If you see here, it will be half circle, 60, 60, 60. And if you divide by the pi dO by 2, because again it is half circle. So this way, if you simplify this, it will become 1.1 upon dO into PT square minus 0.907 dO square. So this way you will calculate the equivalent diameter. So this way equivalent diameter, either it is square pitch or triangular pitch, will be known to you. You will calculate the Reynolds number, you will calculate the Prandtl number, and then you will calculate the cell side heat transfer coefficient. So I hope it is clear to you. Alright, so this way you will calculate the cell side heat transfer coefficient. So now see, we have the calculation of overall heat transfer coefficient. So my next step is calculation of overall heat transfer, coefficient. See, here I have assumed value of overall heat transfer coefficient. Here I am calculating overall heat transfer coefficient, and for which I have already given you the formula, that 1 upon UO, that is equal to 1 upon HO plus 1 upon HOD plus 1 upon HI into DO by DI plus 1 upon HID into DO upon DI plus DO ln DO upon DI upon twice KW. So this formula you have to use, for which what you need? You need the dirt coefficient value inside, dirt coefficient value outside, thermal conductivity of tube metal, and all other, that is DO and DI and everything. So you will calculate the overall heat transfer coefficient. Once overall heat transfer coefficient is known to you, you can use the same formula, that is Q is equal to UA delta Tm. But here, this is now the calculated value of UO. So whatever area you will be getting, that is known as the area required. That you will get the area required value. Earlier we have the value of area provided. Area provided was known to us. This is area required. So from that you will calculate the percentage excess area. What you will calculate is the excess area. So that percentage excess area will be area provided minus area required upon area required into 100. So this, whatever value you are getting, see, it is our standard practice that if you will get between 10 to 20%, then we can say that our design is okay. But whatever value we are getting here will not terminate our design. But if it is minus, we will again proceed further. We will again assume value of U and we will again calculate everything, and we will reach to some plus value. If it is minus, it is not tolerable. But if it is 10 to 20%, that is range given. But suppose you are getting 25%, no problem. Keep it as it is and continue further. So what is our next step? Is to calculate the pressure drop. Calculate the pressure drop. Now again pressure drop also you have to calculate on both the side, cell side as well as tube side. So let us write down the formula for the tube side pressure drop. Tube side pressure drop. When you want to calculate the tube side pressure drop, the formula is delta PT is equal to NP into 8JF into L upon DI into mu by mu W raised to minus M plus 2.5 into rho ut square by 2. Rho ut square by 2 Newton per meter square. So what is here? NP, that is number of pass. JF, that is the factor which is already given in the book in particular chart. L, that is tube length. DI, that is tube ID. And as I told you, this factor will be most of the time 1. Rho, density of the fluid. UT is velocity of the fluid, and you will get the pressure drop like this. Similarly, you will calculate the pressure drop for the cell side. Again, we have the similar type of formula, and that formula is delta PS, that is equal to 8 JF into ds by dE into L by ds into rho US square by 2 into mu by mu W raised to minus 0.14. This is also Newton per meter square. Here also, if you see JF, that is the factor which is given in the book chart. DS, cell ID. DE, equivalent diameter. L and BS, that is the tube length and baffle spacing. Rho, density. US, velocity of the cell side. And that will give you cell side pressure drop. So this way you will calculate the pressure drop value. If this pressure drop on both the side, if it is less than the allowable pressure drop, then we can say that our design is okay. So friends, we have seen the general step for design of the cell and tube heat exchanger. Now let me discuss some important points which you have to take care. See, whenever you will calculate the velocity on the water side, that velocity should be between 1.5 to 2.5 meter per second. See, this is dry line. See, somebody will ask question that can 1.45 meter per second will do or not. So, as far as the dry line is concerned, if you keep between 1.5 to 2.5 meter per second, your pressure drop will come within limit only. So, even though you are not calculating pressure drop, you can say that okay, it will be OT only. But still, we have to calculate everything. So, if you go like this, it will be good. Now what will happen? Suppose sometime you are getting velocity of say 0.3 meter per second. Then at that step only you have to check that what is your tube side number of passes, because your water is on tube side. So there you have to just make sure that your number of passes you can increase. Suppose I am increasing my number of passes instead of 1, if I will make it 4, my velocity will increase 4 times. This is one option. Second thing, what I can do, I can reduce the tube length. Sorry, I will increase the tube length. If I want to increase the velocity, I will increase the tube length and I will reduce the number of tubes. So when I am doing this, my velocity of tube side will increase. So these are the different options available to you. You can just verify like this. Similarly on cell side also, when you find out the pressure drop on cell side high, what you will do? So we know that pressure drop on cell side is controlled by the wafer spacing. So if you are getting high pressure drop on cell side, you have to increase your wafer spacing. But remember, when you increase your wafer spacing, your cell side pressure drop will go down, but at the same time your cell side heat transfer coefficient will also go down. So you have to always make sure that whatever excess area is you have kept, if it is more, and if cell side is not controlling, then no problem. But if cell side is controlling and if you are not kept the enough excess area, then you have to increase the tube length, and by which you have to increase the excess area, that is area provided. So these are the different ways. So by doing this, you can complete your design. So in a summary, I will tell you that design is an art, which what you can do, you can just simply assume something, but based on assumption you are getting something, and then you have to analyze that whether whatever you have received is okay or not, and then you can do the design work. See, in my next lecture I am planning to take one example, so there you will have the real access to the work. We will take example with data, so you will get the data also. But before that, it is my request to all of you that you just find out all the chart from the book and refer to that. And one more thing, that we have the appendix available for the tube side and pipe data, tube data and pipe data. That also you should refer to that, because cell we are preparing from the pipe and tube we are getting from the tube. So both these tables are very important. How to take the gauge of the tube, what is the effect of the gauge and everything, you have to just read it from the book, and then next time when I will take example, it will be clear to you. Thanks a lot. Thank you very much.